Welcome to lightning round of show 19. Let's get started.
All right, so Read Write Web, they sold for about $5 million. What do you think this means? Are tech blogs really that influential? Are they worth this kind of money or not?
Well, let's put in context, $5 million exit, while it's great if I'm assuming, first of all, congratulations to Richard McManus and Read Write Web. I think, I called them a long time ago, like the think tank amongst tech blogs. It was always, a bit more serious, it was very deep analysis, and I think that is why, however, Read Write Web never really caught on with the bigger tech blogs. So if you just quickly do a background of the tech blogs, you really had paid content, which was more of a new media, but also tech blog. Then to some extent, TechCrunch came along and stole, and I love paid content and Rafat Ali, but it stole paid content's content. TechCrunch became the dominant player. And then basically you had GigaOM, Read Write Web, Mashable, and all these guys. Mashable now is pretty massive, but it's an SEO play and they cover so much. And again, props to Mashable. But TechCrunch was sort of the dominant one until Business Insider came out. I think once Business Insider came out and was like heavily funded and Henry Blodgett was very ambitious to build a media company, and I consider Business Insider to be a very entertaining site, and I write for TechCrunch, and I know a lot of these guys. I think Rafat Ali great. I think it's sort of people realized that there was a lot of noise and a lot of hype and a lot of sort of influence, but within a very small crowd. So it was either you were going to be one of the big ones, like Rafat sold to Guardian, TechCrunch sold to AOL, Business Insider wants to exit for a huge sum. I think for the other guys like Read Write Web, the writing, so to speak, was on the wall, so they had to exit. I think it's a great exit because the guy Richard's already started another company, and it's really hard to retain all these writers who move around. So I would say they are influential because they do reach a very.
Are they $5 million of influence?
Well, the reality
how long
is
is it going to take to recoup that investment?
I think Say Media, which was the result of Six Apart merging with VideoEgg, this is part of their strategy. I know a few of the guys there. This makes sense for them. And they brought in Dan Frommer, who used to be at Business Insider, to now become its editor. I mean, $5 million, as much as I hate to say it, is not that big of a sum, realistically, when you consider the kinds of things. So for them, I think it was like a low-risk bet, and it was a gracious exit for Read Write Web. But it is an echo chamber to some extent. Like when I used to write HipMojo nonstop before writing for Media Post and TechCrunch, I had a very, very passionate audience of like 1,000 to 5,000 people. That's nothing. But it was a great audience, but it's not really the kind of numbers that
you can really monetize.
That you could really do much on,
Well, like you said, at that point, content is marketing, right?
Exactly.
So
that was marketing,
it opened doors and leads to other money, but you're not getting paid
exactly.
for the content.
But this fits with Stay Media, which is they want very, very targeted, niche, passionate, audiences. But I'm just not sure. The other problem is with these blogs, and I know this is lightning round; it's becoming a segment of its own. But just very quickly, the problem with these blogs is it's based around a personality. When Rafat Ali brought on Stacey Kramer, who's very talented, it's not the same thing. Eric Schoenfeld is the best editor I've ever written for. He's made me a better writer in like the year I've written for TechCrunch. But he's not Michael Arrington. It's like Eric Schoenfeld leading that is a better publication in some ways because it's more of a, sort of overall cohesive value.
Right, it doesn't have that same cult value.
But it doesn't have the same, I'm just saying it's a different thing. They're both good, it's very different. So my point is this is gracious exit for Richard, and it makes sense with what Say Media wants to do. Okay, Twitter launched these blended pages.
Branded pages.
These branded pages that they're trying to blend in. Does this make sense? Is this the revenue model for Twitter, or is this yet another attempt to be a revenue?
Okay, here's the thing. No, it's not I don't think it's going to be the answer for them. And let's take a look at this quickly. This is long overdue. If you look at it, you're like, what took them so long to do this? So now brands can get pages with like a custom large header. They can have featured tweets at the top. They can have all kinds of photo and video embedded, and they can separate out their @replies and just kind of have this cooler page, which is fine and makes sense, and you got to pay for this. The reason that this won't help Twitter, I don't think too much, is that Twitter doesn't offer that same kind of ecosystem that Facebook or even Google Plus offers. Because let's face it, you're logged into a Google account probably all day. You log into Facebook to interact with people, and that's why it's valuable for brands to get you there. Twitter is something that most people use, I'm going to assume most people use primarily through a client or their phone. They're not in that ecosystem in the same way. So Twitter, bravo to them. They finally launched this. I don't think it's going to solve enough problems for them. That being said, I don't know what would. So yeah, I think that the branded pages are long overdue, much needed and appreciated, but probably insufficient.
Okay, upcoming segment down the road is Twitter revenue model, revenue solutions. We'll talk about that in an upcoming show. Okay,
All right.
should the average user care about SOPA? Like all this anti-piracy, anti-UGC site mumbo jumbo.
Well, I think, yeah, CNET published a great FAQ on like SOPA, and they keep updating it. I think it's worth anyone checking out. But if you go through and read it, it covers every aspect from like how this is going to affect businesses to how it's going to affect users. And pretty much SOPA is going to put the onus on ISPs to like possibly spy on their users, and that kind of big brother element is really scary and has really deep implications down the line. So I think they should, but what do you think?
Well, this touches, well, okay, I personally think that, wrote an article on this, I think the onus has been basically on the content owners to protect their IP, and frankly, I think that's crazy. I'm not saying you should automatically shut down a Twitter or a YouTube, obviously, if there is some infringing material. But I just think the rules have been so in favor of the disruptors at the expense of the content owners that I understand why you need to even it up a bit. I don't think you should have this systematic, approach where, Time Warner can go out and just say, oh, look, there's one video on YouTube we don't like, so let's just shut down YouTube. I think it's like there's a fly. Are you going to just swat at it, or are you going to nuke it? But I get it. I think, everybody's so full of shit in that they only look at it like, well, what's in it for me and how am I going to make money? This is my point of view, which I guess is human nature. It would be good if people just sort of understood both sides of it. So it's broken, you need to fix it. Now, do you need to fix it by creating another broken system? No. Which actually segs us to the last question in lightning round.
All right, Big Brother, they're clearly watching us. There's a few examples. Do you think we should care about that? Is it something we need to be concerned of?
No, I personally think this might sound really odd. I don't really care. I assume I'm being watched. Not like we're following Ash, but I assume people are being watched, listened. Your transactions, they're available. Not again that somebody's sitting there going, oh my God, Ash had a cheeseburger today again. But just that they're like, you know what? Of course shit is being recorded. Are you that naive to think in the digital world nobody's like keeping track of financial transaction phone logs, whatever you say online? It's like they say, you don't want a picture of you doing a shot off a hooker's ass. You don't want people to see that. Don't do that shot of tequila off a hooker's ass. You don't want to have an affair and you're afraid that like some girl's going to go on Facebook and ping your wife saying, hey man, your husband slept with me last night. Don't go doing that. You don't want to screw over.
So pretty much your line is if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about?
Yes, but I'm going to take it one step further. We're all like, oh my God, outrage. Until some terrorists hijack you and you're like, man, I hope somebody is like geo-targeting my
Gmail
phone.
Account.
No, or like, let's say, again, you get stuck in an avalanche and you're like, man, I hope Apple, has this software that will pinpoint where I am. Come on,
right.
It's a very vocal minority that's like outrage until their daughter gets like, kidnapped and they're like, how come this stupid phone doesn't tell you?
Of a hell of a FUD pitch.
Yeah,
you know that?
It is, yeah. Fear, uncertainty,
and doubt.
Yeah.
This is my concern. When the concept of Big Brother was first kind of coined, it was coined in terms of this big like socialist dictatorship that was watching everybody. I think that was unrealistic. I always thought Brave New World was more accurate than 1984 because Brave New World was a hyper-consumer culture. But
I think 1984 was clearly like it was like extreme. It's like Animal Farm. The pigs were not really running the government.
Right, I know. But in 1984, just the idea of always having perpetual war and the enemy's always changing. We're seeing that today.
Well,
so
that's,
I don't think it was.
hello.
And telescreens, we carry them around in our pocket now. Anyways, that's not the point.
Can you tell I've not read it cover to cover?
What concerns me the most, and I don't know what's worse, but we conceived of Big Brother as this one big evil entity. Now we have like a whole bunch of Big Brothers. Google is one, Facebook is another that probably everyone in this room and watching this is owned by because they have so much data on us. And the list goes on. And what scares me about it going out to multiple people is these are private companies and they turn around and they sell it to everyone else. Like, do you know how much info Zynga has just because you use Facebook? It's ridiculous. And I think...
But then don't use it. If you're that offended, like people have always acted, corporations have always acted for profit, but it's just we didn't know about it because we were stupid or media didn't sort of communicate it so quickly. Like propaganda. Like back in the day, shit happened. By the time the newspaper went out, you could basically spin things the way you want. Now it's like there's a guy filming. He's like, hey, look, Gaddafi's dead and I killed him. Here it is. So it's a very different dynamic. I'm going to give you 2 examples of why I don't care. We had a little discussion with the PR or the ad agency of Purelator. So I had to write them an email and I had to search for them. Long story short, for the next 3 days, nonstop, Google is serving me, through behavioral targeting. I'm not a consumer. I was pissed at them, but they're a fine company. We settled it, and then another one. I stayed at the Viceroy in Santa Monica, great hotel. 3 weeks after I've stayed there, still serving me ads. Oh, what is the harm in that?
The same thing happens to me.
What is the harm in that?
I have one client, and I communicate with them through my Gmail account, and now, like, literally 50% of the ads I see, no matter what kind of site I'm on, is for this company. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. If your targeting was that good, you would know to not show me the ads.
Well, speaking of targeting, email of the week.
Email of the week. I'm going to, regardless of what you say, I'm going to pick a bone with you here. Do you think, okay, so the email of the week is coming from Dave. I don't know where Dave's from.
It was a tweet I got when I was at Digiday because I wrote an article for Media Post.
Okay.
And it was a tweet. Dave tweeted me a question, but go on.
All right. Will technology fully replace humans on Madison Avenue / in the advertising world?
Okay, so I wrote an article for Media Post where I basically compared this, a lot of advertisers now, a lot of like ad networks and technology companies, they target ads based on audience. They sort of don't care about the content and they don't care about the publisher. But they're like, oh, if you're looking for such and such demo, we're going to give you this audience regardless of where they are. And I didn't want to say this because it sounds like sour grapes, but I'm like, how is this different from basically taking a bunch of crappy mortgages, bundling them together and saying, oh, look, this is a, AAA asset. It's the same thing, right? It's like if I tell you, oh, there's this guy, who's going to come across your ad, but that ad might be on a porn site, or it might be below the fold somewhere, or he could be on a message board, or he could totally be taking a dump, while your ad is loading, but we targeted by audience. It's the same thing. It's like putting a lipstick on a pig. So I'm just saying, we are basically doing these things that sound great, but anyone from the outside, the echo chamber that is online media and technology, any person, my grandma, if she was around, if I described her the shit that goes on in half these companies, she'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? She's like, go take a shower. This doesn't make sense. So
take a shower?
No, like you should feel dirty for working in this industry. Yeah. So my point is, a lot of the stuff that we saw, I was at Digiday, which is basically, I guess, a competitor of Media Post. So I asked this question, but I guess at that same time, the Media Post article hit everybody's inbox, so a bunch of people asked me about it, hence the email of the week. Now, let me ask you, do you really think that technology put that that Coca-Cola cup on the American Idol desk? No, it's 2 guys or 2 gals who go out, have a 4-martini lunch who say, let's get this done.
Right.
Technology is half of the equation.
I agree with you there, but I think it's really going to disrupt, and we touched upon this in an earlier show, a huge chunk of advertising agencies is not creative. It's media buying. It's going to really disrupt that aspect of the business. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. There used to be a lot of things that machines now do, and I don't think the world is a worse place for it. But yeah, so I think it'll disrupt them, but not in a way where it'll threaten the industry. It'll just probably change the industry. You'll have less media buying folk because one person with a little bit of a software could do the job of like 10, 20, 30 people. That's a good thing. It frees people up to do other stuff.
Good stuff. All right, that's been show number 19. Vote, give us feedback on the company of the year at HipMojo.com. Just send us your suggestions if you got any. Otherwise, next week on show 20, we'll announce who was the company of the year. Last year was Groupon. Anyway, and the first one back in 1994 was AOL.
You know what we should do? We should make them an award and send it to them so they could be like, what the...
Yeah, exactly. I'll just take the Digiday and I'll like liquid paper it and I'll just engrave it. All right, come back next week, same time, same place. Thank you very much.